Hello.
Look, beautiful.
How are you doing, beautiful?
All the better for seeing your lovely face.
Oh, stop.
Oh, come on, you live off ridiculous compliments.
No comment. No comment. Hi, Zach.
You must let me tell you how oh God, I can't remember it now.
In vain I will not do.
I adore and love you.
You must allow me to tell you how ardently I admire and love you.
I got it almost right.
Hi, Duncan.
Oh,
Hi, Ainsley.
I'm a little confused because just as I was joining Zoom before it all came up, I had the very strong urge to scream "Frankie, I love you" as I joined the channel, and then you were having that discussion, and it's like,
I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
Frankie, I love you.
I'm moderately fond of you.
Oh, Zach!
You'll do.
It's funny because you're my boyfriend. Hi, Mike. Hi, Secret Mike.
Hey.
Hi, sweetness. Your
How are
hair
you?
is just looking so good. It's so lush
That's very
and
sweet.
thick and lustrous and shiny.
Yeah.
It's very nice. Hi, Abby.
Is that more
It's so
pie?
nice to join a call and think you're talking about my hair, even though it's clear it was about Michael's.
I was just about to say, here comes somebody else with good hair. The good hair brigade has obviously got the call out.
Abby, how's the pie doing?
I had to give a quarter to Christian.
Nice.
So Monday night, I was sat darning Christian's socks because apparently instead of blues dancing now on a Monday night, drinking a pint of beer and chatting to some weirdos in a pub, I'm sat watching Grand Designs darning my boyfriend, who I have to stay at least 2 meters away from, holy socks.
Oh, sweetheart.
Wow.
And I don't know how I've become that person. And I don't know if it's here forever now.
It's a weird time. It's a weird
Yeah.
time we're living in.
Yeah. Darning's really satisfying though. Like making holy things whole again is quite a cool skill.
It's very good.
I would quite like to know how to darn properly as opposed to just kind of messily stitching holes closed.
I don't think you need to know how to do it properly.
It just takes a while.
All we have is time.
Then you should definitely learn to darn.
I bought a darning mushroom. When you're next in Bristol, you
What
can
does that
borrow
do?
my darning mushroom.
What does that do, Abby?
It's for darning mushrooms with, Mike.
So you put your knitted thing like inside it and put an elastic band over it to keep the surface kind of flat.
Ah, okay.
And then you can
And you can
hold-
see your
hold
hole
it
properly.
and kind of see your little stitches. But I did it without it before, but it's definitely easier with.
Okay. Top
Darning
tip there.
knitting is much easier and more rewarding than darning anything else because the threads are so big. If you want to darn something that isn't knitting, you have to weave a lot more threads to get the same effect.
Hi, Carmen.
I went to a workshop on repairing old suits by individually white weaving fibres that are taken out of like the seam and things, and that can involve like 800 threads per inch.
Jesus.
For a second, when you said taken out the seam and things, my brain heard it as taken out the semen things. I was like, wait, what?
All right, Frankie.
What were you doing to your suit, Frankie?
That's why it needs darning.
It's a very expensive suit.
Yeah, I mean, my darning's really clunky, and I deliberately used a contrasting thread so it looks like a feature. I don't
Nice.
think I would ever get the hang of, beautiful, invisible darning. That doesn't feel like the goal. I think
You're
that would
making
take another
art.
couple of years of this, and I don't want this to last long enough that I'm an excellent darner.
Yeah, you're making art. You're adding to the art that was existing already there. You're like that guy who went and slept in Tracy Emin's bed. Wasn't that a thing? Didn't you go and
Japanese
sleep
repair
in?
thing and use golden thread. So you get
Oh,
down.
Oh, like
Patches.
kintsugi. Ah, yeah. That would be cool.
The invisible Malcolm.
Invisible Malcolm?
And
Have
then
we-
Hello.
Tara.
Hey, hey.
Oh,
Oh,
we've
hi,
got
Papa.
Ivan. Hi, Ivan. And Tara. Hi, Tara. Malcolm, where is your face?
It is deep, deep outside.
Oh,
Oh.
I see.
In the wilds of Glasgow.
Yes, on my way home.
Ah, are you snuggled up warm?
No, I mean, I'm dressed.
That's okay. That's a good start. That's a good start. There's a lot to say for it.
Yeah. Snuggled up warm, I think, is all quite relative when you are outside and it's not raining a bit.
Okay.
But when you get home, we can all welcome you home, though. Which will be really nice.
Yeah. Although it will definitely be mid-story time at that point.
Okay.
Well, I'll stop. I'll stop story time, and we can all just take a moment to stare at your cozy and newly revealed face.
Could you weave it into the story? Could you make Joyce welcome
could.
Malcolm?
Oh, and Malcolm's here. How nice.
I should just say, Malcolm, it's so nice to see your face.
Got some vegan cake for you.
Got some vegan cake for you, Malcolm.
Yeah.
How much
It's
vodka
made
is
with
in that?
almond, made with almond flour.
Oh,
It's got
I caught
almond
up this afternoon.
flour. Hey!
Series.
Ooh, what are
I
your
think-
theories?
The second body in the graveyard was due to the priest, and that's why he didn't want it dug up.
Definitely. The priest is well sus.
He was clearly shifty. He's probably the guy that took the photo back before he found God in the 90s.
Ah,
He was-
Well, has he found God? I don't believe he's found God.
That is true. I don't think he has.
Is he even a priest?
I don't think he killed Tony. I think the priest is going to die, and that will be like the sparking for Act 3.
oh.
But do we think he killed someone else, though? Maybe.
I think he killed the guy that they found, that's what's his name, found while digging up the coffin. But yeah.
Hey, Ariane.
Here we are. But yeah, I think the priest is going to die.
Most importantly of all, Zach, are you going to fall asleep this session?
Oh,
Probably. The bonus points because my housemate's on the other
Me
side of the room.
too.
You can see me fall asleep.
oh, Carmen.
Yay.
Lisa.
Oh, do we have an Ash and a Lisa and a Jonas? Lisa!
Got it very dark, Lisa.
Hi.
Hi, Lisa!
Oh, hi, Ash.
Small human.
Hello!
No offense to the rest of you, but Ash is the cutest person on Storytime.
Oh, yeah.
True.
100%.
Those big dark eyes. Ooh. Ooh. Hold on, everybody. Hold on, everybody. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
I think Ash knows what time it is. Is it that time? Katie, is it that time? Okay, buddy. Hey, everybody. Mute. Mute. Okay. Everybody. Oh, I have not managed to mute you all. I have muted some of you. Now I have muted you all. Now. Okay. So, ding dong, the witch is dead. Now, are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. Part 2. Everyone here has a story to tell. 54. Joyce. I tripped over a loose paving slab in Fairhaven a few weeks ago. I didn't mention it in my diary because of murders and trips to London and my pursuit of Bernard, but it was a nasty tumble and I dropped my bag and my things went everywhere. Keys, glasses case, pills, phone. Now, here's the thing. Every single person who saw me fall came over to help. Every single one of them. A cyclist helped me to my feet. A traffic warden picked up my things and dusted down my bag. A lady with a pushchair sat with me at a pavement table until I'd got my breath back. The woman who ran the cafe came out with a cup of tea and offered to drive me around to her GP. Perhaps they only came to help because I look old. I look frail and helpless. But I don't think so. I think I would have helped if I saw a fit youngster take the tumble I did. I think you would too. I think I would have sat with him. I think the traffic warden would have picked up his laptop, and I think the woman in the cafe would still have offered to drive him to her GP. That's who we are as human beings. For the most part, we are kind. However, I still remember a consultant I once worked with at Brighton General up on the hill. A very rude, very cruel, very unhappy man, and he made our lives a misery. He would shout and would blame us for mistakes he made. Now, if that consultant had dropped dead in front of my eyes, I would have danced a jig. You mustn't speak ill of the dead, I know, but there are exceptions to every rule, and Ian Bentham was of the same type as this consultant. Come to think of it, he was called Ian too, so that's something to look out for. You know those people who feel the world is theirs alone. They say you see it more and more these days, this selfishness, but some people were always awful. Not many, that's what I'm saying, but always a few. All of which is to say that, in one way, I'm sorry that Ian Bentham is dead, but there is another way to look at it. On any given day, lots of people die. I don't know the statistics, but it must be thousands. So somebody was going to die yesterday, and I'm just saying that I would rather it was Ian Bentham who died in front of me than, say, the cyclist or the traffic warden or the mum with the pushchair or the woman who ran the cafe. I would rather it was Ian Bentham the paramedics failed to save than that it was Joanna or Elizabeth or Ron or Ibrahim or Bernard. Without wanting to sound selfish about it, I would rather it was Ian Bentham who was slipped into a bag and wheeled into a coroner's van than me. For Ian Bentham, though, yesterday was the day. We will all have one, and yesterday was his. Elizabeth says he was killed, and if Elizabeth says he was killed, then I expect he was. I don't suppose he expected that when he woke up yesterday morning. I hope I don't sound callous. It's just that I have seen a lot of people die, and I have shed so many tears. But I have shed none for Ian Bentham, and I just wanted you to know why. It is sad that he is dead, but it hasn't made me sad. And now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go and help solve his murder. $55. Well, here's the big headline. Chris Hudson is standing at the front of the briefing room, his team spread out in front of him. Ian Bentham was murdered. Donna De Freitas looks around at the murder squad. There are a few new faces. She simply cannot believe her luck. 2 murders, and here she is, right in the middle of it all. She had to hand it to Elizabeth. She definitely owed her a drink, or whatever else Elizabeth might prefer. A scarf? Who knew what Elizabeth would like? A gun, probably. Chris opens a folder. Ian Bentham's death was caused by fentanyl poisoning. A massive overdose delivered into the muscle of his upper arm, almost certainly in the moments leading up to his collapse. You will tell by the speed that this is not official. This is me calling it a favour, okay? And they see enough fentanyl overdoses at the path lab these days to know one when they see one. We're the only ones who have that piece of information at present, so let's keep it that way as long as we can, please. No press, no friends and family. He gives Donna the briefest of looks. "56. So, we were all witnesses to a murder," says Elizabeth, "which, needless to say, is wonderful." 15 winding miles away, the Thursday Murder Club is in extraordinary session. Elizabeth is laying out a series of full-colour photographs of the corpse of Ian Bentham alongside every conceivable angle of the scene. She had taken them on her phone while pretending she was calling for an ambulance. She had then had them privately printed by a chemist in Robertsbridge who owed her a favour, due to her keeping quiet about a criminal conviction from the 1970s that she had managed to uncover. Tragic, too, in its way, if we wanted to be traditional about our emotions, adds Ibrahim. Yes, if we wanted to be melodramatic, Ibrahim, says Elizabeth. "First question, then," says Ron. "How do you know it was murder? Looked like a heart attack to me." "And you're a doctor, Ron?" asks Elizabeth. "As much as you are, Liz," says Ron. Elizabeth opens a folder and takes out a sheet of paper. "Well, Ron, I've already been over this with Ibrahim because I had a job for him, but listen carefully. The cause of death was an overdose of fentanyl, administered very shortly before death. This information is straight from a man who has access to the email correspondence of the Kent Police Forensic Service, but it hasn't yet been confirmed by Donna, even though I have texted her repeatedly. Happy, Ron?" Ron nods. "Yeah, I'll give you that. What's fentanyl? That's a new one on me." "It's an opioid, Ron, like heroin," says Joyce. "They use it in anaesthesia, pain relief, all sorts of things. Very effective. Patients rave about it." "Also, you can mix it with cocaine," says Ibrahim, "if you were a drug addict, say. And the Russian security services use it for all sorts of things," says Elizabeth. Ron nods, satisfied. Ibrahim says, "And as it must have been administered very shortly before his death, then we are all suspects in his murder." Joyce claps her hands. "Splendid. I'm not sure how any of us would have got hold of fentanyl, but splendid." She is arranging Viennese whirls on a plate commemorating Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson's wedding, something Joanna had assumed she would like many years ago. Ron is nodding, looking at the photos of the scene, looking at the faces of the residents craning for a better view of Ian Bentham's slumped body. "So, someone at Cooper's Chase killed him? Someone in these pictures?" "And we are all in the pictures," says Ibrahim. "Except for Elizabeth, of course," says Joyce, "because she was taking the photos. But she would still be a suspect for any half-decent investigation. I would hope so, agrees Elizabeth. Ibrahim walks over to a flip chart. Elizabeth asked me to make a few calculations. Elizabeth, Joyce and Ron settle into the jigsaw room chairs. Ron takes a Viennese whirl, to the relief of Joyce, who now feels able to do the same. They are own brand, but there had been a Greg Wallace programme which had said they were made in the same factory as the proper ones. Ibrahim begins. Somebody in that crowd administered an injection to Ian Bentham which killed him, almost certainly within a minute. There was a puncture wound found on his upper arm. I asked you all to compile a list of everybody you remembered seeing, which you kindly did, although not all of your lists were alphabetized in the way I had asked. Ibrahim looks at Ron. Ron shrugs. Honestly, I'll get mixed up somewhere around F, H and G and then I'll give up. Ibrahim continues. If we combine those lists, an easy job if you know your way around an Excel spreadsheet, then in total there were 64 residents at the scene, ourselves included. Then we add DCI Hudson and PC De Freitas, the builder Bogdan, who went missing. He was up on the hill, says Elizabeth. Thank you, Elizabeth, says Ibrahim. We add the driver of the low loader, whose name was Marie, another Pole, if that is of interest. She also teaches yoga, but that is by the by. Karen Playfair, the lady who lives at the top of the hill, was there, as she was supposed to teach us about computers yesterday. Then, of course, Father Matthew Mackey. That makes 70, Ibrahim, says Ron, now onto his second biscuit, whatever diabetes might say. And Ian Bentham makes 71, explains Ibrahim. So you think he might have driven up, started a rug, and then killed himself? All right, Poirot, says Ron. This isn't thinking, Ron, says Ibrahim. This is just a list. So no impatience, please. Impatience is all I got, said Ron. It's my superpower. You know, Arthur Scargill once told me to be patient. Arthur Scargill. So one of these 70 people killed Ian Bentham. Now, there are nicer odds than the Thursday Murder Club usually faces, but can we narrow down the field still further? It would have to be someone with access to needles and drugs, suggests Joyce. That's everyone here, Joyce, says Elizabeth. Quite so, Elizabeth, agrees Ibrahim. If I might be permitted a visual image, that would be like looking for a needle in a haystack made entirely of needles. Ibrahim pauses, under the assumption there might be applause at this point. In its absence, he continues. Now, the injection would be the work of a split second to anyone experienced in intramuscular injections, which, again, is all of us. But the drug would need to be administered at very close quarters. So, I have deleted the names of anyone we know for a fact was never in close proximity to Ian Bentham. That loses a lot of the supporting cast. The fact that many of the crowd suffer from severe mobility issues has played into our hands here, as we know they couldn't have managed a quick dash when none of us were looking. No Zimmers, agrees Ron. We lose 8 names on Zimmer frames alone, agrees Ibrahim. Mobility scooters are also our friends here, as are cataracts. There are also many people, such as Stephen, I hope you agree, Elizabeth, who never found themselves close to Ian Bentham on that morning. They are struck from the list. Also, 3 residents were padlocked to the gate until someone thought to call the fire brigade sometime later in the day. And so here we find ourselves. Ibrahim turns over the top sheet of the flip chart to reveal a list of names. 30 names, ourselves included, and one of them is the killer. I pause only to note that, alphabetically, by surname, I am first on the list. Well done, Ibrahim, says Joyce. So that's the list, says Elizabeth. And I'm guessing it's now time for the thinking. Yes, I think between us we can trim down the list a little further, says Ibrahim. Who wanted him dead, says Ron. Who gained? Did the same person kill Curran and Bentham? Funny to think, isn't it, says Joyce, wiping crumbs from the front of her blouse, that we know a murderer. I mean, we don't know who it is, but we definitely know one. It's brilliant, agrees Ron. He is considering Biscuit 3, but knows there was no way he would get away with it. Well, we had better get started, says Ibrahim. Conversational French are due in at 12. 57. Which means, says Chris Hudson, that the fentanyl must have been administered by someone who was there that morning. So, one way or another, we already know our killer. Today, we work on a full list of everyone who was there, which won't be easy, but the sooner we have it, the sooner we'll have the killer. And who knows, maybe Tony Curran's killer too, unless Bentham killed Curran and this was retaliation. Donna chances a quick peek out of the briefing room window. Her uniformed colleague, Mark, is putting on a bicycle helmet, perfectly complementing his morose expression. Donna sips her tea, murder squad tea, and thinks about suspects. She thinks about Father Mackey. What do they really know about him? Then she thinks about the Thursday Murder Club. They were all there, all surrounding Bentham at one point or another. She could imagine them each, in their own particular way, being a murderer. Hypothetically, anyway. But actually, she couldn't see it. They would certainly have a view, though. Donna should probably head over and see them. In the meantime, continues Chris, opening another folder, I have some other fun jobs for you. Ian Bentham was not a popular man. His business dealings were complicated and wide-reaching, and his phone has revealed a list of affairs, which must have been pretty tiring for him. Tell your loved ones they won't be seeing much of you for a while. Loved ones. Donna thinks about her ex, Carl, then realises she hasn't thought about Carl for a good 48 hours, which is a new record. Though she has thought about him now, which spoils it a little. She realises, though, that soon she won't think about him for 96 hours, and then a week. And before you know it, Carl will just seem like a character from a book she once read. Really, why had she left London? What happens when these murders are solved and she's back in uniform? And the rest of you, no let up on the Tony Curran case. The two could be connected. We can't rule it out. We still need the speed camera info. I particularly want to know if Ian Bentham's car was on that road that afternoon. I need to know where Bobby Tanner is, and I need to know who took that photograph. And I still need the information on the phone number that called Curran. Which reminds Donna of a little hunch she has been meaning to check. "58. Elizabeth is back in Willows, sitting in her low chair in Penny's room. She is filling Penny in on the drama. Simply everyone was there, Penny. You would have been in your element, swinging your truncheon and arresting everyone in sight, no doubt. Elizabeth looks over at John, in the chair where he spends most of his waking hours. I'm guessing you filled Penny in on the details, John? John nods. I may have overstated my own bravery a little, but other than that, it was chapter and verse. Elizabeth, satisfied, pulls a notepad and ballpoint from her handbag. She taps a page of the notebook with her pen, like a conductor giving notice to her orchestra, and begins. So, where are we, Penny? Tony Curran is bludgeoned to death by person or persons unknown. As a side note, I will never tire of saying bludgeoned. I bet you used to say that a lot in the police, you lucky thing. Now, Ian Bentham, meanwhile, dies within seconds of being injected with a huge dose of fentanyl. You know fentanyl, John? Of course, says John. Used it all the time. Anesthetic, mainly. John the vet. Elizabeth remembers the fox that John nursed back to health with Ron. Once healthy, it had gone on to murder Elaine McCausland's chickens. Not proven, but there were no other suspects. Ron had taken a lot of grief for it at the time, which had pleased him enormously. How easy would it be to get hold of it? Asks Elizabeth. For someone here, John starts. Well, not easy, but not impossible. Pharmacies would have it. You could break in here, I suppose, but you'd have to be very determined, or very lucky. And you can get it on the internet. Goodness, says Elizabeth. Can you? The dark web. I read about it in the Lancet. You can get all sorts. A rocket launcher, if you really wanted one. Elizabeth nods. And how would one go about getting on the dark web? John shrugs. Well, I'm guessing, but if it were me, the first thing I would do would be to buy a computer. Perhaps go from there? Says Elizabeth. Might be worth checking who has a computer. You never know, agrees John. It would certainly narrow it down. Elizabeth turns back to Penny. How unfair to see her lying there. One man bludgeoned Penny, the other poisoned. But by whom? If Bentham was killed straight away, then somebody out there this morning killed him. Me or John, or Ron or Ibrahim, or who knows? Ibrahim has a list of 30 names on a spreadsheet to start us off. Elizabeth looks at her friend again. She wants to walk out of the door with her right now, arm in arm. Share a bottle of white, listen to her swear like a docker about some imagined slight, and sway home happy and tipsy. But that will never happen again. I always find it peculiar that Ibrahim doesn't come and visit you, Penny. Oh, he does, says John. Ibrahim visits, says Elizabeth. He's never said. Like clockwork, Elizabeth. Every day he brings a magazine and solves bridge puzzles with her. He talks them through. They solve a puzzle, he kisses her hand, and off he pops half an hour later. And Ron? Asks Elizabeth. Does he visit? Never, says John. I suppose it's not for everyone, Elizabeth. Elizabeth nods. She supposes so too. Back to business. So, Penny, who wants to kill Ian Bentham? And why, at the very moment digging was about to start? I suspect your question might be who loses what if the development goes ahead, wouldn't you think? I want to talk to you about Bernard Cottle at some point. Do you remember him? With the Daily Express and the nice wife? I feel like there is a motive there waiting to be winkled out. Elizabeth stands ready to leave. Who loses what, Penny? That's the question, isn't it? "59. Chris Hudson has his own office, a little bolt hole where he can pretend to work. There is a space on his desk where a family photograph might ordinarily sit, and he feels a prick of shame every time he notices its absence. Perhaps he should have a photo of his niece? How old was she now? 12? Or maybe 14? His brother would know. So who killed Ventham? Chris was right there when it happened. One way or another, he actually watched him being killed. Who had he seen? The Thursday Murder Club, they were all there. The priest. The attractive woman in the jumper and trainers. Now, who was she? Was she single? Now's not the time, Chris. Concentrate. Had the same person murdered Ventham and Tony Curran? It made sense. Solve one, solve the other? Who were the 3 calls to Tony Curran's phone from? Almost certainly someone trying to sell him life insurance, but you never knew. Chris is sure that Tony Curran's phone could tell all sorts of tales. Human rights are all well and good, but Chris would love to tap the phone of every single person in Fairhaven who looked even a bit suspicious, like they do in prison. He remembers an armed robber called Bernie Scullion who ran out of money in Parkhurst, but wanted to buy himself a PlayStation, so phoned his uncle and told him where he'd buried £500,000. The police had the money and the uncle within the hour, and Bernie never got his PlayStation. There is a knock at the door, and Chris has the brief, disturbing realization that he hopes it's Donna. Come. The door opens. It's DI Terry Hallett, terrifyingly efficient, handsome in that Royal Marine way that everyone seemed to like, but also annoyingly a nice guy. Chris would never be able to wear a t-shirt that tight. One day Terry will have this office. Terry has 4 kids and a happy marriage. Imagine the photographs he will have on the desk. Chris wishes he was Terry, but who really knew what went on at home? Perhaps Terry had a hidden sadness. Perhaps he cried himself to sleep. Chris doubts it, but at least it's something to cling to. I can come back, says Terry, and Chris realizes he has been staring at him for a beat too long. No, sorry, Terry, miles away. Thinking about Ian Bentham? Yep, lies Chris. What have you got? Sorry to drag you back to Tony Curran, but I've got something I think you're going to like, says Terry. I've got a car that took 12 minutes to travel a half mile between the 2 speed cameras either side of Tony Curran's house. Exactly the right time frame too. Chris looks at the details. So it stopped somewhere between the 2. Nice little 10-minute break for something or other. Terry Hallett nods. Anything else around there except Tony Curran's house? Somewhere you'd stop? There's a lay-by if you needed a slash, but long slash, agrees Chris. We've all had them, but even so. And you've run the number plate. Terry nods again, then smiles. I like that smile, Terry. What have you got? You won't believe the registered owner, Gov. Terry slides another piece of paper onto Chris's desk. Chris takes it in. Well, this is very good news. Are you sure about these timings? Terry Hallett nods and drums his finger on Chris's desk. That's our killer, surely. Chris has to agree. Time to go and have a chat. $60. Bogdan has seen where Marina lives, and now is as good a time as any. She will know what to do about the bones. He sensed that as soon as he met her. He has brought her flowers. Not from the shop, but from the wood, tied the way his mother used to tie them. Flat 8. He presses the buzzer and a man's voice answers. This surprises Bogdan. He has kept a close eye on her for a while and not seen a man. The external door to the flat swings open. I am here for Marina. To see Marina, he says as he walks through. The first door off the carpeted hallway swings open, and he sees an elderly man in pyjamas running a comb through his thick grey hair. Maybe he's got this wrong? Either way, the man will know Marina and can point him in the right direction. I come looking for Marina, says Bogdan. I think maybe she live here, but maybe another flat. Marina? Of course. Come in. Let's get the kettle on, shall we? Never too early, is it? Says Stephen. With an arm around his shoulder, the man ushers Bogdan in. Bogdan is relieved to see a picture of Marina, a younger Marina, on the hallway table. It's the right flat. I don't know where she is, old chap, but she won't be long, says Stephen. Probably at the shops or round at her mother's. Sit yourself down and let's make the most of the peace and quiet, eh? You play chess at all? 61. Chris Hudson is pulling his coat over his jacket as he leaves the station. He turns as a voice behind him calls out, Sir? It is Donna de Freitas. She catches up with him. Wherever you're going, I think I've got a change of plan for you, says Donna. I doubt it, PC de Freitas, says Chris. He still calls her PC de Freitas at work. I'm off to have a little chat with someone. Only I was looking through the call logs, says Donna, and I recognised the number. The mobile that called Tony Curran. Donna nods, then takes out a scrap of paper for Chris to see. Remember this? Jason Ritchie's number. He's the one who phoned Tony 3 times on the morning of the murder. Is this worth a change of plan? Chris holds up a finger to silence her and takes the piece of paper Terry Hallett had handed him from his jacket pocket. He passes it to Donna. Vehicle records from the day of the murder. Donna reads and then looks up at Chris. Jason Ritchie's car. Chris nods. Jason rings Tony Curran. Oh no, wrong voice, sorry. Jason rings Tony Curran that morning. Jason's car is outside Tony's house when he dies. So we're going to see Jason. Maybe just me this time, says Chris. I don't think so, says Donna. Firstly, I'm your shadow, which is a sacred bond of trust, etc., etc. And secondly, I just solved the crime. She waves Jason's phone number at him. Chris waves the vehicle records at her. I solved it first, Donna. So I'm just going to pay him a quick visit at home alone and see if he wouldn't mind answering a couple of questions. Very low key. Donna nods. Good idea. He's not at home, though. I checked already. Then where is he? If you take me along, I'll show you, says Donna. And what if I ordered you to tell me where he was? Asks Chris. Well, you can try, says Donna. See where it gets you? Chris shakes his head. Come on then, you can drive. (62) Neither Chris nor Donna had known that Maidstone had an ice rink. Why on earth did Maidstone have an ice rink? That had been a large part of the conversation on the drive there. This was after Donna had asked Chris to turn off his compilation of early Oasis B-sides. Bit by bit, Donna was intent on dragging Chris from his century into hers. The mystery had not been solved when they pulled up outside Ice Spectacular. How was anyone making money out of an ice rink just off a ring road, sandwiched between a tile warehouse and a carpet ride? Chris would often tell friends that if there was a business in their neighbourhood that didn't make any sense, which had no customers, then it was a front from a drugs business. Always. No real customers needed, no real profit needed, just a way of washing money. Every town had one, tucked away somewhere on a little row of shops, or in the railway arches, or next to a carpet ride. Whether it was a waxing parlour, or a party lights hire shop, or an ice rink with a neon sign that last lit up in 2011. Always a front, always drugs, thought Chris as he closed the passenger door of his Focus, which seemed apt, given who Chris and Donna were here to see. They walk through the front doors, across the sticky, carpeted foyer and into the arena. At this time of day, it is mostly empty, except for an elderly man hoovering up popcorn from rows of plastic seats and two figures out on the ice. Anyone who had seen Jason Ritchie in his prime would tell you the same. He had a fluid strength, his feet slimply gliding around the ring. Those powerful arms arcing through the air or flicking forwards in rib-rattling jabs. His tiny feints and dips, eyes never leaving his opponent, his whole body ready to pounce and strike. He wasn't a slugger, a big plank of wood, a zombie. He was an athlete, strong and brave, a magnificent, flowing machine, everything given, nothing wasted. With his grace and his poise and his movement, Jason Ritchie was beautiful to watch. However, as Chris and Donna sip on coffees, watching, it becomes apparent that Jason Ritchie cannot ice dance. The session seems to be over, as Jason is gingerly skating towards the side of the rink, his elbow being supported by a small woman in a purple leotard. Even so, about a metre from the sweet safety of the side, Jason's left skate disappears from underneath him, slices into his right skate, and his tumbling weight is too much for the lady in the leotard to save. The big man is down again. Chris and Donna have been watching for only a matter of minutes, but have already lost count of his falls. Chris leans over the board and offers a hand. It is the first time Jason clocks the two officers. He has been preoccupied. He looks Chris in the eye as he takes the proffered hand and finally reaches dry land. "Have you got 5 minutes, Jason?" asks Chris. "We've come ever such a long way." "Are you okay, Jason?" says the lady in the leotard. Jason nods and gestures for her to go on ahead. "Yeah, a couple of mates. I'm going to stop for a chat." "Well, look, I'm going to write all this up and send it to the producers," says the skater. "You're not a lost cause, I promise." "Darling, you're a superstar. Thanks for putting up with me and picking me up off my arse." "Hopefully see you on the show," says the skater, and waves as she disappears up the steep stairs on her narrow blades. Jason collapses onto a moulded plastic chair, which bends a little under his weight. He starts to unlace his skates. "Thought I might see the two of you again. You got another photo for me?" "Well, shall we dive straight in?" starts Chris. "What were you doing at Tony Curran's house on the day he was murdered?" "None of your business," says Jason. He nearly has the first skate off, though it's a struggle. "But you agree you were there?" asks Donna. "Am I under arrest?" asks Jason. "Not yet," says Donna. "Then it's none of your business if I was or wasn't." The first skate is finally off. Jason puffs like he's gone 3 rounds. Just so you have the full picture, says Chris, pulling out his phone from his pocket and swiping it into life. We'd been trying to find Ian Bentham's car on the traffic cameras near Tony Curran's house. A nice open and shut case. Ian Bentham didn't visit Tony Curran that afternoon, but we found something even more interesting. The first traffic camera catches your car, Jason, about 400 yards east of Tony's house at 3:26. And then the next camera, the other side of Tony's house, catches you at 3:38. So either you took 12 minutes to drive half a mile, or you stopped somewhere in between. Jason looks at Chris very calmly, then shrugs and starts on his right skate. Okay, I've got one too, says Donna. The day that Tony Curran was murdered, did you ring him? Don't remember, I'm afraid. Jason is picking at what seems to be an impossible knot in his laces. You'd remember that though, Jason, wouldn't you? Says Donna. Ringing Tony Curran? One of the old gang, wasn't he? Never been in a gang, says Jason, finally making a breakthrough with the knot. Chris nods. But here's our issue, Jason. A mystery number phones Tony Curran 3 times on the morning of his death. A number we couldn't trace thanks to Vodafone and to data protection legislation. But a number that, thankfully, you had personally written down and handed to PC de Freitas. So your number, Jason. Jason finally has the second skate off. He nods. That was silly of me. And then that very afternoon, you are driving along the road outside Tony Curran's house, at which point you stopped to perform some sort of errand which takes around 10 minutes, at the exact time that Tony Curran was murdered. Chris looks at Jason for a response. Yeah, sounds like you've got yourself a mystery there, says Jason. Now I've got these skates off, I'm going to head back. Jason stands. Chris and Donna do too. I wonder if you'd like to come in and give us some fingerprints and a bit of DNA, says Chris, just to eliminate you from our inquiries. We could eliminate you from 2 murders at once. That would be nice. You should probably ask yourself why you don't have my prints and DNA already, says Jason. Maybe because I've never been arrested for anything? Never been caught, Jason, says Chris. That's different. Be interesting to hear a motive too, says Jason. Robbery, says Chris. Man like that has a lot of money lying around. You got any money worries at the moment? I think time's up here, don't you? Says Jason, starting to climb the stairs to the changing room. Chris and Donna don't follow. Or are you doing celebrity ice dance for the prestige, Jason? Asks Donna. To which Jason turns and gives a genuine smile, then raises his middle finger, turns again and continues towards the dressing room. Chris and Donna see him disappear, then sit back down on their plastic chairs and look out over the empty ice. What did you make of that? Asks Chris. If he did it, why on earth would he leave a photo with him in it by the body? Asks Donna. Chris shakes his head. Perhaps some people are just stupid. He doesn't seem stupid, says Donna. Agreed, agrees Chris. 63. From outside, Elizabeth can immediately see that something is wrong. The curtains in Stephen's study are open. They are always closed. Stephen doesn't like the glare of the morning sun when he writes. Her brain makes all of the necessary calculations in a second. Has Stephen woken and broken his routine? Is he hurt? Lying on the floor? Alive? Dead? Or has someone broken in? Someone from her past life? It does happen, even now. She has heard of it happening. Or perhaps someone from the messy present has paid her a visit. Elizabeth circles to the fire door at the back of Larkin Court. It is impossible to open from the outside without a piece of kit available only to the fire service. Elizabeth opens it and slides inside. Her feet make no sound on the carpeted hallway, but they would have made no sound on the concrete walkway of an East German detention centre. She takes out her keys and coats the Yale in lip balm. It makes no noise when she inserts it into the lock, and Elizabeth opens the door as quietly as she can, which is very quietly. If there is someone in the flat, Elizabeth knows her time may be up. Holding her keyring in the palm of her hand, she slides a different key through each of the gaps in her fist. Stephen has not collapsed in the hallway, that is news at least. His study door is open, morning sun streaming in. She feels a momentary shame at the bright dust dancing in the doorway. "Checkmate," says a voice from the living room. An Eastern European voice. "Well, I'm damned," replies Stephen. Elizabeth slips her keys back into her bag and opens the living room door. Stephen and Bogdan sit across the chessboard from each other. They both smile to see her. "Elizabeth, look who it is," says Stephen, gesturing to Bogdan. Bogdan has a moment of confusion. "Elizabeth?" "He calls me that. He gets things wrong." To Stephen, "It's Marina, dear, remember?" This doesn't feel wonderful, but needs must. "Like the man said," agrees Stephen. Bogdan has risen from his chair and extends his hand towards Elizabeth. "I brought you flowers. Your husband has put them somewhere. I'm not sure where." Stephen is examining the endgame of the chessboard. "The bugger got me, Elizabeth. Fair and square." Elizabeth looks at her husband, crouched over the board, backtracking moves, clearly delighted with the trap in which he has been caught. Life in the old dog yet, then, thinks Elizabeth, and falls in love again for the 1000th time. She repeats, "It's Marina, darling." "I call you Elizabeth. Is okay," says Bogdan. "He fixed the light in my study too, dear," says Stephen. "We have a marvel on our hands." "That's very kind of you, Bogdan. I'm sorry we're not as clean as we might be. We don't get guests, so sometimes..." Bogdan places his hand on Elizabeth's upper arm. "You have a beautiful home, Elizabeth, and a wonderful husband. I wonder if I can speak to you." "Of course, Bogdan," says Elizabeth. "I can trust you," says Bogdan, staring deep into Elizabeth's eyes. "You can trust me," says Elizabeth, her eyes never leaving his. Bogdan nods. He believes her. "Can we go for a walk? You and I, this evening?" "This evening?" asks Elizabeth. "I have something to show you. It's best to wait until dark." Elizabeth studies Bogdan. "Something to show me? Any clues?" "Yes, it is something you will be interested to see," says Bogdan. "Well, I'll be the judge of that," says Elizabeth. "And where will we be walking, Bogdan?" "To the cemetery," says Bogdan. "The cemetery?" A slight shiver runs down Elizabeth's spine. How wonderful the world can be at times. "I meet you here," says Bogdan. and wear warm clothes. We be there for a while. I think you can count me in, says Elizabeth.
Yay!
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 Yay! Such a good book.
Very good.
So is he taking her to the cemetery to kill her?
No.
Not Bogdan.
He reminded him of his mum. He's not there for
Yeah.
the mum.
He brought her flowers. He played
Yeah.
chess with her husband.
And he fixed the
Not
light.
wholesome Bogdan.
He fixed the light.
Not Bogdan the Polish hero.
He's just building up trust, so he's got alibis and things.
Yeah.
It's a nasty, suspicious mind you've got there.
May have watched too many murder mystery type things.
Still hoping it's Joyce.
Yeah.
Oh.
I would rather it was Joyce than Bogdan.
Yes.
Ah,
I mean, all he said is he misses his mum. He might miss his mum since he murdered her or something.
It's true.
you're all monsters.
Yeah, I'm Team Bogdan and Team Joyce.
Joyce Dan?
Joyce Dan.
Bogwies.
Better than Bog Joyce.
Well, and we know Joyce is thirsty, so maybe that should be a thing.
That's true. And he's all like,
Bogdan are lovers.
he's all tattooed and stuff, isn't he?
Mhm.
He likes her men manly.
She does like them full of testosterone, doesn't she?
Yay, Joyce! Get it,
I love
Joyce.
that.
Yeah, and when she had her fall and she was distracted because she'd been talking about chasing Bernard or whatever she said.
Yeah.
What a thirst machine. Who is everyone identifying with? Tag yourselves. Mike, you're Joyce, so that's obviously
Oh.
that's
Perfect.
Wholesome and northern.
mm-hmm.
Probably DCI. What's his face?
Really? Chris Hansen? No, I reckon you're Donna. I see you more as a Donna.
I love Ibrahim, just saying it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I
Like
could
he
see
just
that.
settles into an explanation. He's like, don't rush me. I've got maths to explain.
Yeah. It's like when I try and tell a story, except for his is more about maths and mine just like fritters on for a while and doesn't come to a point.
Yeah, you're definitely Ibrahim as well.
Yeah, I think I identify with Ibrahim on the math point.
I identified with the first dead guy for a while when he was saying, well, I'm just going to have to kill him now. He knows he's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
That's not disturbing at all.
I mean, sometimes you just know.
Yeah. I identify with Ian Bentham.
I had you down as International Woman of Mystery Elizabeth.
Yes! I'll take that.
With her like she's such a spy, and it's the Russian Secret Service had uses for it too. Yes, Elizabeth.
Yes! I love that she like sneaks in and she's like, oh, it could be someone from my past, and in that case I'm probably dead, and then like pushes her keys in like you fucking badass.
Can you go down facing?
Yeah.
I think I identify with Penny.
What? Swinging her truncheon around,
Swearing.
swearing and tipsy.
I do like how Joyce writes in her diary as if she's talking to a real person. She's writing in a diary, right? Even like the bit when she's like, sorry, I need to go answer the door. Like, who writes?
It's where she's like, oh yeah, I'd help him up. I think you would too. It's like, oh, Joy.
Oh.
Unless it was Ian Bentham, but then she just gets really catty. She's like, I would rather Ian Bentham was on the ground than, and she lists everybody.
I love that. I really like the bit where she's like it's sad that he's dead, but it hasn't made me sad. It's like I like that as a distinction.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Joyce.
Have we got any Rons here?
I was gonna say, I feel like quite a Ron. You're just angry at the world a lot of the time. Quite ranty.
He says Ron.
Oh my god, yeah! I can see that. Like fiercely fighting injustice wherever he finds it. Like doesn't have any time for bullshit.
Yeah.
Who's Bernard then?
Ooh, who's Bernard? I don't know. Bernard's
Jonathan.
Let's just say Martin. Let's
What?
just say Martin.
Oh no, Martin's definitely Ibrahim. That's like
Yeah,
Ibrahim
actually that
round.
yeah, that makes sense.
Who else have we not allotted? Who's Bogdan? Have we got a Bogdan?
He's
I
very
mean,
sweet.
Lisa's sort of Bogdan. Like she's very handy with the drill. Puts up his shelves.
That is true. What about Jonas?
Hey.
Jonas is handy and has tats.
Hmm hmm
I can see that.
Not nice enough to be Bogdan.
Are you nice to old ladies though? You don't need to be nice to everyone. You just need to be nice to old ladies. And if someone says, "Will you kill this person for me?" you just need to say, "Kill them for yourself."
Yes, I can completely imagine Jonas saying that.
He's nice, he's handy, he's a bit foreign.
Yeah, he's a bit foreign. I can imagine, yeah, Jonas, I can imagine you like meeting an old lady, kind of hitting it off with her, and then like taking flowers round to her house. I think that's a very you thing
That seems
to do.
possible.
I'm playing chess with her husband. I think.
Yay! Yay!
Good night, Ivan.
Oh, sorry to hear that, Ivan.
Night, sweetie. Oh, should we say goodbye to the catch-up crew? Wait, hold on. What device am I doing? Okay, right. Okay, I'll get this. We've got another week and a half for me to get the hang of this. Right. Goodbye,
Can I just give a little call out to Jess, who snuck in yesterday while I was in the catch-up crew? And she might miss meeting her, but now she's in the catch-up crew again. I'll just have to say hello via the magic of catch-up crew messages.
Absolutely. Hi, Jess. Hi, Jess. We love you very much. Hi, the rest of catch-up crew. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Bye.